Okay, folks, I'm on a roll today, and seems like Leavenworth is the subject du jour. Anyway, this next story I heard many years ago, and I heard it secondhand, but since then I've been able to go back and validate it. So I feel very comfortable telling the story. It pretty well all flows the way I first heard it. So what you had was a young FAPE that was going through F-111 school out at Canon. And he was married, and when he graduated from the course, when you graduate from an Air Force training course, one of the first things they like to do is get you off the base so they don't have to continue paying your TDY. So this guy headed off to his next duty station, but his wife was left behind to tie up some loose ends. Had to do with the apartment. They had something like that. At any rate, she had to move out, and she was looking at a hotel room for a week or two. And this guy in the squadron, this F-111 squadron, said, well, listen, he says, I'm going on an exercise over to Florida for about 2 weeks. He said, there's not going to be anybody in my apartment. Why don't you just come over and stay there? And she said, okay, thought that was pretty good. So she moved into his apartment when he took off and went to Florida on this exercise. Well, while she was in the apartment one night, after settling in for a few days, she decided to fix something for dinner. So she's looking around for some cooking materials, utensils. And while she was looking around, she found a mortar and a pedestal and some scales and some plastic bags and some other stuff. And she went, holy crap. I don't know if there was any product there or not. I can't remember that. But anyway, it was enough. She knew what she had found. So she called her husband, and he told her, he said, listen, you get your stuff and you get the hell out of there. He didn't know who was watching that house or what, but he said, just get the hell away from there. So she did. Meanwhile, somehow, I don't know whether it was her husband, but somebody cued in the upper guys at the base about what she had found in Joe's house. I'll call him Joe because that's his name. Anyway, so they sent word to the squadron commander that was out in Florida with them, and on the day of the return, the squadron commander says, how about I fly with you back to Canon, Joe? And, that happened every now and then. The boss might want to come and fly with you, so that wasn't any big deal. So he hops in the airplane with Joe, and off they go. And they flew from Florida back to Canon, New Mexico. And when they landed, I think there were like 6 airplanes, 4 airplanes, 6 airplanes. They put them all in the same place out on the tarmac and then cordoned them off. And then you had a security police guy, a colonel, security police guy, a colonel, a security police guy, a colonel. And they all kind of surrounded them. So when they surrounded them, they started, then they had the dogs, and they started checking out airplanes. Well, sure enough, on Joe's airplane up in the Bombay was a stash of drugs. You gotta be shitting me. And they nailed him. He ended up going to a court-martial, and then from there, he ended up going to Leavenworth, as he should have. I don't have any problem with that. Now, I had heard this story probably 20, 25 years ago. So the other day, it was one of the stories I thought I'd share with you. So the other day, I put on this F-111 group I belong to on Facebook, I said, hey, any of you guys remember a story about an F-111 pilot that got nailed for dealing with drugs there at Canon? Holy crap. The details started flying in, and sure enough, the story happens just as I remembered it. A couple guys knew of all these details I've shared with you, and a couple of them added a few more of them. I don't know. I'll just let those float. The story is kind of astounding as it is. One of the things I've always felt about that, my first assignment in the Air Force after I went through munitions school was to the 430th TAC Fighter Squadron at Nellis Air Force Base, and they flew F-111As. And I love those airplanes. I love those guys that flew them. I love the maintenance guys I worked with. I just was so proud to be part of that community. And I would have loved to have had the opportunity to fly the F-111 out of pilot training or any time else after that, but it just wasn't meant to be. So when I heard this story, I was just kind of heartbroken, because it was almost like this guy had it, and he had it all. As I think a couple of guys on Facebook said he was an F-111 IP. And I'm thinking, man, you had it all, and you traded it for these stupid drugs. Yeah, I get it, but it's still heartbreaking just the same. And I think it's also, it dishonors the F-111 community, the guys who flew, the men and women who flew that airplane. It leaves a pit in my stomach. Anyway, the guy got his due, ended up in Leavenworth, and I never heard any more. I don't know how long he served. I don't know whatever happened to him. I don't care. I care for the men and women in the F-111 community, very dearly, by the way. So anyway, I'll tell you a little bit more about some of those guys on another video here in the near future. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.